One of the most prolific sci-fi horror directors is Guillermo del Toro, and his first major production here in America was Miramax's Mimic. Del Toro wanted to create a movie that involved some of the things he had a weird love for, like insects, monsters, dark places, and unborn things. When making the film, Bob Scissorhands Weinstein did not like the early footage that was shown to him and got into fights with Del Toro about tone, saying it wasn't scary enough. In fact, he was so infuriated with Del Toro that he stormed onto the set and tried to instruct Del Toro on how to direct a movie. Yeah. He even tried to get Del Toro fired multiple times. Mira Sorvino, the lead of the film, eventually had to intervene, and this caused Weinstein to back down. But despite Del Toro finishing principal photography, Weinstein insisted he had control over the final cut of the film. Producer B.J. Rack, what a name, compared making the film to being a prisoner in a war camp. Eventually, the film was released to mixed reviews and was a box office bomb. In 2018, when Del Toro was talking about bad experiences on set, he said this: "The only time I have experienced bad behavior, and it remains one of the worst experiences of my life, was in 1997 when I did Mimic for Miramax. It was a horrible, horrible, horrible experience." In 2010, Del Toro completed work on a director's cut where he stated it wasn't exactly the movie he wanted to make, but it healed a lot of wounds. It was eventually released exclusive to Blu-ray in 2011 and available on a multitude of streaming services, but not yet available on DVD. I'm unsure whether or not I watched the director's cut or the theatrical cut, but whatever it may be, here we go. With all of that history, the result? A somewhat intriguing take on the American B-movie. While this could have been something astounding and truly exceptional if the Weinsteins could keep their grubby paws off the damn movie, the fact that Del Toro managed to deliver something pretty damn good showcases his amazing talent as a director. While this included many tropes associated with B-movies, Del Toro still managed to take those ideas and do his own version in how he views those American B-movie tropes. He conveyed such a dark and moody atmosphere with unabashed disgust in our monster was really interesting, as well as the themes of trying to play God, just like those 1950s B-movies. In terms of the cast, I liked Giancarlo Giannini, who through few scenes makes for an intriguing, smart, and endearing character. Sorvino and Northam's characters were decent and somewhat interesting, just a tad forgettable, and Dutton was pretty damn enjoyable. I love the idea of the monster in this, how it is essentially an extremely evolved bug that mimics us. Such a cool idea, and yet another great spin on the famous bug movies of the 50s, like Them and Tarantula. Somewhat adding to the sub-theme this month of expanding lore on older creatures, but not totally. However, outside of great atmosphere, interesting themes, a great monster, great practicals, and some likable characters, there isn't really a ton to this movie. Don't get me wrong, what Del Toro managed to sneak into this movie was fantastic. It's just kind of burdened by all the shit that Del Toro probably had to shove in there due to the Weinsteins. Mainly with some pacing in the first half being a bit forgettable and repetitive conventions with no commentary that simply doesn't add anything new to the film. However, what Del Toro manages to really get right, it fucking works. I only recommend this to really diehard Del Toro fans though, who want to watch his entire filmography, or simply a fan of movies like this / casual horror fans.